Welcome to The Explainer. So, how does a tech billionaire, a guy once hailed as a global hero, end up as the main villain in a massive, worldwide conspiracy theory? Well, today we're going to try and figure that out by unpacking the paradox of Bill Gates.
To really get this, let's start with the man in his own words. This is Bill Gates, right? Pioneer of the PC, co-founder of Microsoft, and, as he says, a devout fan of capitalism. For, decades, this was the guy we all knew, a tech titan who then became this huge global philanthropist.
Which, of course, leads us right to the million-dollar question. How on earth did this person, this mainstream figure, become the face of a global conspiracy, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic? It's a genuine paradox, and it tells us a whole lot about the world we're living in online.
So, to get to the bottom of it, we need to dive into what we're calling the Gates paradox, this huge gap between his public image and the wild theories that have just exploded online. Now, take a look at this. This image visualizes what a deep dive into online comments about Bill Gates actually looks like. You don't have to squint to read all the tiny text. The takeaway is just the sheer volume, the negativity, all these themes clustering around stuff like depopulation, microchips, vaccines. This isn't just a few people in a basement. It's a powerful, widespread story. So where is it all coming from?
To answer that, we are turning to a really important study from researchers at Harvard University. They basically put on their digital weeding boots and ventured into the underbelly of the internet to see how this whole thing actually works.
A team from the Harvard Kennedy School's Misinformation Review decided to look at a place most of us just scroll right past, the YouTube comment sections on news videos that happen to feature Bill Gates.
And they weren't just messing around. The scale here is kind of mind-blowing. They didn't just glance at a few comments. They systematically analyzed, get this, more than 38,000 comments. And that's from just 3 news videos. It created this massive data set for them to work with.
So what did they find? Well, their top-level conclusion was pretty stunning. The researchers put it bluntly. The comments weren't just sprinkled with a few conspiracy theories, they were heavily dominated by them. This stuff wasn't the exception, it was the rule.
So the study's big argument is this. While YouTube was so focused on moderating the videos themselves, the comment sections kind of became this Wild West, a totally underregulated social space. It turned into the perfect petri dish for these ideas to spread and grow, with almost no one watching.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? The Harvard study didn't just stop at saying, hey, there are conspiracies here. It actually broke down exactly what people were saying, and maybe more importantly, how they were saying it. The researchers mapped out the whole conversation, and they found 3 main buckets of theories, all connected. The first one was all about attacking Gates's personal character. The second zeroed in on his role in vaccines. And the third went after the work of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You can see how they all kind of feed each other.
But how do they make these arguments? It's not just random yelling. The study found these really specific tactics. The most common? A quarter of the comments were casting doubts, asking leading questions to make you suspicious. And almost another quarter were connecting the dots, linking things that have nothing to do with each other to build a bigger, scarier story. Okay, here's a real example of connecting the dots that they pulled from the comments. This person weaves together the pandemic, nanoparticles, and 5G towers into one single theory. It's a classic move, right? Take a few separate ideas that sound kind of spooky and mash them together like they're proof of some secret plan.
And here is a textbook example of casting doubts. See how the commenter doesn't make a direct claim? Instead, they ask these loaded questions, using phrases like tell us the truth and who are you backing up. It implies this whole sinister agenda without actually having to prove a single thing. It's a really effective tactic.
So we've got the what and the how, but why are these comments so visible? Why do they shoot to the top? Well, the study argues that the platform's own design, its own DNA, plays a massive role in fanning the flames. To get this, you have to understand something called the bandwagon heuristic. It's a mental shortcut our brains take. Basically, if it looks like a lot of other people believe something, we're way more likely to think it's true, or at least credible. It's like social proof on steroids. And here's how that creates a chain reaction in the comments. Step 1, a conspiracy theory gets posted. Step 2, it gets a ton of likes, mostly from people who are already on board. Step 3, YouTube's algorithm, which is built to promote engagement, sees all those likes and pushes the comment right to the top.
And then step 4, new people show up, see that top-ranked comment, and their brains go, whoa, lots of people agree with this, maybe there's something to it. The system creates this powerful, self-reinforcing loop. So, if the design of the platform itself is part of the problem, what's the solution? The study looked at this too, focusing on things like moderation and who's ultimately responsible.
The study draws a really interesting contrast between YouTube and other platforms. See, YouTube leans super heavily on automated filters, but those bots really struggle with the sneaky, nuanced language of these conspiracy theories. But a platform like Reddit, on the other hand, uses layers of community moderation, people downvoting things, volunteer moderators, and that can be a lot more effective at handling this kind of stuff.
So based on all this, the researchers came up with some clear recommendations. They said YouTube should redesign its comment section to include more of those social moderation tools. They should also give users better ways to self-moderate, work with news publishers on best practices, and empower the video creators, but, and this is key, without just dumping all the responsibility on them. And all of this leaves us with a really tough, really crucial question. The algorithms that run these platforms are built for one thing, and one thing only: engagement. But what do we do when the ideas that get the most engagement also happen to be the most dangerous? It really forces us to think hard about how our digital world is built, and frankly, what our own role is inside of it.